Awesome. So, so who can give me a quick, give me a revision of what we have covered so far? You guys have your notes from day one. What have we learned? Counting of the houses. Then we probably learned about the different types of rashis.
Yes, so we have the number of houses, how to read the house according to the northern chart, how to read the houses according to the southern chart. We know about the rashis. We know about this part I always get confused about when I'm explaining it. I have the concept down, but when I'm explaining it, I get confused in how to explain it. But we know about how each of the rashis, oh wait, no, yes, rashis have associated with certain types of qualities, and how within their placement within the chart, we get to read what it means for the individual depending on which house that's in. I think I explained it right.
So how do we find out from the rashis? What are the characteristics of the rashis?
So we have like 4 characteristics, which is like fiery, water, earthy, and then we have fiery, airy. We have airy as well. So based on
which order do they go in?
Oh, okay. They go in the order of. Wait, I have this in my notes. Sorry, I'll have to refer. Yeah, you have fiery, which is Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Earthy, which is going to be Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Airy, which will be Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, and watery, which is going to be Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces.
Very good. So FEAW.
Yes, FEA.
FEAW, yeah.
Very good. Okay, so then what did we do? What else did we do with that?
Then we learned about their qualities, which is basically the 3 qualities, which is chara, which is movable, fixed, which is sthir, and dual, which basically means somebody who listens to logic and changes accordingly. And then we learned which of the rashis they were associated with, which is for movable, it would be Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. For sthir, it would be Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. For dual, it would be Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces.
Very good. And then what did we go on to?
We went on to the elemental significance. Sorry. Yeah, we went to learn about the 3 things, which is Lagna, which is like the first house. It represents yourself. Then the sun represents your soul, and moon that represents your state of mind. And then we started going to the Kalpurish chart and learning about the houses and what they mean in terms of like groupings. So we have the Kendras, the Trikonas, then we have the Artha Trikonas, Kama Trikonas, Moksha Trikonas, Upcharya houses, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and the first one is Dharm Trikon. Dharm Trikon, Earth Trikon, Kam Trikon, Moksha Trikon. For a 12. That's very good. And then what was the next thing you said?
In terms of the groupings, or
right after you said the Dharm Trikon, Earth Trikon, Kam Trikon, Moksha Trikon, had said something.
Yeah, and then I said Artha Trikon, Kama Trikon, Moksha Trikon. Then we have the negative ones, like the bad houses. I can't pronounce them. Dushtastanas?
Dushtanas.
Yeah.
Dushtanas. Okay, Dushtanas. Then we have Upcharya houses.
Upchay houses.
Upchay houses, yes. Thank you.
So Dushthan are also called trick houses. TRIK, trick houses.
Trick houses, okay.
Also known as trick houses. So remember which are the trick houses?
The trick houses are 8, 6, 8, 12.
Very good. And I mentioned something else. We talked about Triyadasha houses.
Triyodasha, 3, 6, 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I spelled it wrong. That's why I couldn't find it. Okay, got it now. I
Actually,
put it as,
Trishadaya
yeah.
houses. Trishadaya. 3 is third house. Shad is sixth house. I is 11th house. Trishadaya houses. Okay, important concept.
Yeah.
And we covered one more important topic.
Yes, we covered the planets after that.
Yeah, we covered the planets, what each one represents, what is the main karkatwas of everything.
Yeah,
So,
we covered their malefic, some of their benefic and malefic qualities, their varnas, gunas, and then we learned a little bit like about exalted, debilitated, and aspect, which is slightly not that clear to me just yet, but it's something that we covered, and that was the end of it, I think.
What is not clear to you, Bhavya?
Like it's clear to me, but it's like just in the beginning phase of being clear because there's so much more to it. It's like the exalted, debilitated, and the aspect, yeah, aspect of how it works in like functionality. I understand in theory, but I need more practice in functionality, actually doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let us understand both these things a little bit. Aspect in Hindi means drishti. Drishti means your eyesight. Drishti. Where am I looking? Okay. Visibility. So we talked about all planets aspecting the seventh house from itself. Okay. So if you look at this chart, if this is the first house, this is the seventh house from it. So Mars and Venus will look at each other very easily, right? Mars will have direct eye visibility to Venus, and Venus will have direct visibility towards Mars. So that's what drishti is. In addition, three planets have extra aspects. The first is Mars. It has the fourth, seventh, and eighth aspect. Then we have the Jupiter, which has the first, fifth, and ninth aspect. First house will be a conjunction, so 5, 7, and 9 for Jupiter. 4, 7, and 8 for Mars, and Saturn is 3, 7, and 10. So if Saturn is third, it will aspect third, seventh, and 10th house from itself. The third house will be 1, 2, 3. The 12th house will be the third house from Saturn. Saturn will have an aspect on the 12th house. In addition, it will have the aspect on the 7th house, which is the 4th house in the Kundli.
Yep.
Okay, the 7th aspect of Saturn goes on the 4th house, and the 10th aspect of Saturn will go on the 7th house. 12, 11.
What about the 9th house? It's right next to Saturn, and so is the 8th.
So Saturn will not have any aspect on these two houses if Saturn is placed here.
Okay.
All planets will aspect 7th house from it. In addition, Saturn will aspect only 3, 7, and 10. Jupiter will aspect only 5, 7, and 9. And Mars will aspect only 4, 7, and 8.
Okay.
Those are the only exceptions. Okay. Mars 4, 7, and 8. So it will aspect 1, 2, 3, 4. So this will the fourth house. 5, 6, 7. This is the seventh house, and 8. So if Mars is sitting in the first house, it will be aspecting fourth, seventh, and eighth house from itself in this chart. And Jupiter is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fourth house, 6, 7, sixth house, 8, 9, eighth house, if Jupiter is sitting in the 12th house. Everything that we have learned so far about Rashis and planets, these are the basic tattvas of the Rashi, of how these things work, how the Rashis work, or how the planets function. No matter which house they own, a lot of importance, everything we will do from this point on will involve studying houses, houses, houses. We'll make different Lagna charts and then look at where the different planets are positioned and what that means, that kind of thing. I'm going to be teaching you about basics. So it will all be about houses. But I can tell you, if you know your Karkatwas more than anything else, that's the place you start. Whether Saturn owns excellent houses like ninth and 10th, both a Lakshmi Sthan and a Vishnu Sthan, okay? And it's sitting in your ascendant, which is an excellent combination. Saturn will give you some pain, some misery. So that's the natural Karkatva of Saturn. Even if you similarly with Mars, similarly with Rahu, similarly with Ketu. Rahu and Ketu will cover later. They have additional points to consider, but in one summary, Mars, Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, they will always give something perfect will be tainted. So these karkattvas are very, very important to understand. Moon, we talked about mind. Moon is mind. If it's sitting in Aries sign, Aries is, we talked about, it's very impulsive, right? Action oriented. So somebody with moon in Aries, doesn't matter which house moon owns in that native's chart, moon will give him that effect of fickle mindedness, very impulsive nature. Sun is a royal planet. If it's sitting in ascendant, it will give that royal dignity look wise or somehow to that native. Okay, so understanding these tattvas are very, very important, even though moving forward we'll always be spending time on houses and charts. For when we start to do analysis, I may pull you back and say, hey, remember that tattva? Or if you can't figure this out, think about the original tattva. If you can't think about this, can't figure this out in this chart, then think about the tattva. There is no astrologer who is 100% accurate. I haven't met one, I haven't heard of any who's 100% accurate. What that means is this: every astrologer will say that I'm always learning because there's new charts, new combinations. The way they are working, these combinations are different. When we start to study about houses, I will give you key significances of each house. But I can tell you, if you start to do a research on each of the houses, you can probably get 108 significances on each of the houses. But and different rishis have different experiences and they've documented their experiences differently. And when I talk rishis, I'm talking about the ancient rishis as well as the modern astrologers who were deep into research in astrology, who have published many books, who are very renowned. Even they have difference of opinions. They have had different things working differently. So when I'm going to be teaching you about key points, they will be the key points. Like if somebody talks about career, we go immediately to the 10th house if he's talking about a profession. If somebody is talking about children, we immediately go to the 5th house. If somebody is talking about marriage, we immediately go to the 7th house. If somebody is talking about money, wealth, income, we immediately go to the 2nd and 11th house. So I'll be teaching those significances to you. Is that fair? Okay. So before I go there, what I decided to do was, last time where I left you was I was teaching you the lordships of each of the signs. Aries is owned by Mars, Taurus is owned by Venus, Gemini is Mercury, so forth. So what I found is many people find the South Indian chart to a little bit easier to memorize Rashi and lordships, simply because Rashis are fixed here. The houses can change, but Rashis are fixed. Aries will always be here. Even though the ascendant can be here, the house numbering can start from here: 1 Gemini, 2 Cancer, 3 Leo, but Aries will always remain here. Okay, so sometimes this is an easier chart to memorize the lordships. And another thing to that makes it easier is if you take these two houses, moon and sun, okay, moon and sun, and you start moving from moon, it's owned by Mercury. You start moving from sun, it's owned by Mercury. Then the next one is owned by Venus. The next one is owned by Venus. The next one is owned by Mars. Then over here, it's also Mars. Then Jupiter and Jupiter, Saturn and Saturn. Okay, so some people find it easier to memorize Rashi and lordships in the South Indian chart, but many of us are very, uh, we like to look at the North Indian chart when we are starting to look at Kundli, to analyze somebody's Kundli, because I easily know which house is which. The houses are fixed over here, right? The Karkatvas and the planets Karkatva and the Rashi Karkatva, we know. But I have to move beyond that, and I have to find out what houses, which yogas are being formed, which planets Dasha is running, which houses is it owning, which house is it sitting in, which houses is it aspecting, or which other planets is it aspecting, how is it getting aspected. All those things I have to look at. And in this chart, it's very easy for me to determine that. Okay. There's two kinds of Jyotish, even in the Parashari Jyotish. Uh, some are Nakshatra Dashas, okay, and some are Rashi Dashas, okay. We will be, what we will be studying is the basic system which is in use. Probably 98% of the astrologers do use it. The rest of the astrologers are very niche astrologers. Okay, they may use a very specialty system, but 98% of the astrologers use a system or a dasha system called Vimshotri. Okay, and that's a nakshatra based dasha system. For all aspects of nakshatra based system, it's very easy to look at the North Indian chart and look at the aspects and all of that. But for a Rashi based system, dasha system, the aspects work a little differently, and this chart helps in that analysis to understand which the aspects and how they are aspecting. The other the Rashi dashas work differently, and I won't go into it to confuse you, but I'm just letting you know so you have heard of this in case you're speaking with anyone. Make sense? Any questions so far? Binny, can you have your camera? Anamika, your camera, because I can't read your face. Thank you. Thank you, Binny. It's good for me to look at faces because then I know I'm talking to someone. Okay. So I'll leave these two charts with you. I'll share them with you so that you guys have it if you haven't really memorized it. But everything that we have done so far is really, we have to know them by heart, all the Karkatvas. Okay. So let's look into houses, what each house means. Okay. The first house, people will say the body part is head, but really it is you, yourself. It in if we can get a gist of the whole a person's whole life just by the first house. So everything about whatever is indicated in the first house is the person. So his attitude, his appearance. For example, you will see the ninth house over here. I've said it's father, okay, and the fifth house over here I said children. So the fifth house from the ninth house, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You are your father's child. It represents you. What your priorities in life may be, what your mindset is, what your attitude is, okay, how you pick your priorities, all these things can be determined from here. General health, we can pick it up in number one. If there's any suffering, it will show that there's suffering to the self. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the ninth house is always five to the fifth house, right? So everybody is their father's kid in that, like if the father's personality influences the kids. Is that what I'm understanding?
So there are two ways to know about houses. So I'm giving you a general indication about what the first house, second house, third house, fourth house, fifth house means, correct? But when I'm studying any particular area of any person's chart, say I'm studying about his fortune or about his father, okay, I will start to look at from his father's house. If somebody wanted to, somebody brought me his chart and he wanted to know about uh, his father, I will look at his father's chart, his father's house, which is number 9. But say somebody brought their chart and say, can you tell me something about my child? Or I can take a look, for example, one of my gurus. Uh, so when Amitabh Bachchan got hit in the 1982 movie, Coolie movie, do you remember that? His mother had gone to K.N. Rao and asked about her husband, and K.N. Rao had said, I don't see anything about your husband, but I see something big about your son. So he looked at the fifth house and how the dasha was coming under affliction, and he could say that something with your child may happen, which is not very healthy. Okay, so we have to also understand the relationship of the houses in relation to each other. Okay, and I'll explain you this in the next slide. Okay, so the first house right now is self, yourself. The body part is head, but everything about you, or your appearance, your behavior, your priorities, I can determine from the first house. Which planets are placed in here, which Rashi is in the first house, where is the Lagna Lord placed, what kind of aspects and conjuncts it has. Based on that, I can get some indication for that person. For example, second house, you see I've written the house of wealth. If the Lord of the second house is sitting in the first house in any chart, I will know that this person will have lots of wealth around him. Second house also, and same thing, if ninth Lord is sitting in the first house or the ascendant Lord is sitting in the ninth house, this person may look very much like his or her father. So these are things that we will learn how to read when planets are sitting there. But what I'm saying is the first house will give me a general indication of that person's life in a very quick summary form. Okay, what this person's life might be like just by looking at the first house. In fact, they used to do a blank chart prediction where they used to teach, there are no planets, just the lagna is giving, and you make 50 predictions. And you can only do so because you kind of know what the lagna is, then which Rashi is represented in each bhav and what that would signify, because I know the karkatva of the Rashi. Okay, so this is not stuff that you need to, that I expect you to know immediately. And I'm not scaring you, but what I'm emphasizing is everything that we have learned needs to be really known by heart. Okay, second house also represents food. It shows the type of food we eat. Everything to do with the face, the body part is face, everything to do with face, your speech. But second house also indicates two very important things: family, your immediate family, and your upbringing, your values, your sanskar. Very, very important. So somebody's Jupiter is sitting in the second house, okay, or the second bhava is owned by, in a Sagittarius or a Rashi owned by Jupiter. I can feel that, okay, this person somewhere along the line, even if they had some challenges, but they had some good guidance in their youth while they were growing up. Something was around them. So these are key things. I'm only giving you maybe half a dozen things in each one, but they are the key things. When we look at, so a lot of times when people come to astrologers, they want to know about themselves, okay? Or parents come wanting to know about their children, okay? So you're going to be, first thing you're going to be studying the person's, the child's first house, okay? People will talk about, want to know about their wealth, so you'll be studying their second house. Okay, if people are talking about their children not behaving well, you want to go to their second house again and see what kind of environment did he grow up in, what kind of sanskar does he have. Okay, the third house represents many important things. Okay, the body part is neck. Okay, but in Hindi we call it parakram, courage, valor, or in Hindi we call it purusharth. Purusharth is the effort that anybody puts in towards any activity. People, all good sports people usually have a strong third house. All good policemen, military people usually have a strong third house. Now, remember we talked about Karkatvas, and one of the Karkatva was fiery, airy, right? So somebody in a defense profession, maybe an Air Force pilot, and the clue that you will get is which Rashi is it occupied. Because otherwise you're not getting any significance of an airy planet, but you're getting Mars, you're getting strong third house, and you're saying, okay, this person could be a sports person, this could be in defense or some kind of Martian profession, but what might he or she be doing? And sometimes it's very difficult, but that Rashi can come into play and give you a clue. Third house is also the very first house where desires start. Now, this is an anecdotal, what I'm saying. You probably won't find that in a lot of books, but I've found this in practice with many, many astrologers. And that is one of the reasons it is included in Trishadaya houses also, because Trishadaya houses are houses of desire. Okay, so it is definitely, we have to remember that third house is the first start of an attraction towards a desire. It represents hobbies, it represents communication. Who owns a third house in the Kalpurush Kundli?
Mercury.
Mercury. Mercury, what did we talk about? Communication, intelligence, right? So Mercury is communication. All kinds of sales and marketing activities is known by the third house. If that house is strong in profession somehow, that person may be involved in sales and marketing job or a commission based job, not a fixed salary job. That job may involve a lot of travel. It is the house of travel also. It is the house of younger siblings. A person with a Rahu in a third or 11th house could be the youngest born or the oldest born. Because Rahu negates anything. 11th is an elder sibling, third is a younger sibling. So it could make you either the eldest or the youngest born. Okay, so younger siblings is what you need to remember. Documentation. A lot of astrologers were quite busy in the last few years in Canada because people, all these students were applying for visas and they were having challenges with visas. So anytime there is a challenge with any documentation, taxation receipt, IRS CRA document, anything, any document, passport, you look at the third house to study how it's affected, which dasha is running now. Okay, so I'm just teaching you tattvas of the houses currently. Go ahead, Bhavya.
So when we want to analyze something, it cannot be just based on houses, but also how the houses interact with the rashis, right? It has to be a combination, correct?
So tattvas you can never forget.
Mm-hmm.
You are absolutely right because you get important clues from it. But you do study houses independently also, and then you put all the synergies together, and then the chart will start talking to you. When you start finding patterns into it. Okay, okay. For example, 10th, I've talked about is profession. Second, I have talked about money. Earning money is very different than the profession that one is engaged in. The person may be working as an accountant, but he has made all his money in real estate. Or a person may be working as an accountant, but he has made all his money in stocks. Or a person may have a job, but also may have a couple of other franchises that he's letting managers run them. So earning money and a profession, although there is a link, but they're also very distinct activities. So we have to understand these kinds of things, right? And then we synergize everything and say whether this person largely is meant to do a job or will have a business at some time in his own life, right? So we look at those things. Any questions on 1, 2, 3 houses? So let's go to the fourth house. The most important significance of the fourth house is mother. Okay. Fourth house is also very importantly known as manas. Manas in Hindi is basically mind. It's a person's what kind of mental state are they in? It's a peace of mind. Because it's the peace of mind, it can also provide a lot of happiness. Okay, it represents house, a person's house, vehicles, comforts, luxuries, domestic happiness. If Rahu or Saturn is in the fourth house, even and say that house Saturn is exalted, even the person may have all kinds of cars and buildings and everything. He might be living in a house, in a state of luxury, but his domestic happiness will not be there. Something will be missing. That's a karkatva of Saturn. But if when you know that somebody wants to talk about their mother or their house, when will I own a house? Okay, you know which house to look at. If the person says, I'm really not happy, okay, I have a lot of challenges, you know what that person is going, you know which house to look at. Person wants to buy a car or a house, when will I have it? You know what to look for, from which house. The body part is chest. Below the neck, it's chest. The fifth house is intelligence. Who owns the fifth house in the Kalpurish Kundli? Which is a sign here?
Leo.
Leo, sun.
Sun, exactly. So remember we said sun knows everything. He is the witness to all activities. Sun has all knowledge that exists in the world. So even in our Shastras, it is explained that the knowledge was first shared by sun, the education, okay? So it's intelligence. It's the house of children. Fifth house is the house of creativity and solutions. Okay, people, so if somebody is in IT field, but they could be doing product development, or they could be doing testing, QA, or they could be doing some other job, architecture job, how do you tell the difference? If the person is in product development, there has to be the fifth house involvement over there, because it is the house of creativity and solutions. Fifth house also means a lot of fun. People like to have fun, entertainment, enjoyment. Speculation, a lot of people who do stock trading, it's speculation, houses of speculation. Purva Punya, it's called in Hindi. Purva Punya means the good deeds you have done in your past lives. That's why children are so highly revered in um, Hinduism, because we honestly do believe this is our part of our Purva Punya. Fourth house, I'll go back to it. Who owns a fourth house? Moon. You're
Moon,
on mute, but it's moon. So moon, what does it represent?
Mind.
mind,
And
emotions,
emotions. So fourth house, remember I talked about the peace of mind, happiness, these are all emotions. Okay, so remember, even if moon is not associated with a fourth house, okay, but wherever moon is sitting, there are emotions related to that. So we have to know the karkatva of the fourth house. We have to know the karkatva. If it's uh, Cancer, then we know the karkatva of the Cancer sign. Okay, and these are karkatva of these signs also: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo. They're also the significances of those, how in those rashis wise, because they are that house in Kalpurush Kundli, fourth house or the fifth house or the sixth house. Okay, sixth house, usually it's considered a dusthana, a trick house. Okay, why? Number one, it's a shadripu. Okay, shadripu means all kinds of enemies are there. 6 enemies: Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya. Right? Desires, angers, greed, enemy, disease, litigation, all kind of things are associated with the 6th house. But on a positive side, it also means a job. It represents a job. So if somebody wants to talk about a job, I look at the 6th house, not the 10th house immediately. 10th house is profession, but a person's profession may be his business, which is not the 6th house. 6th house is a job. And job requires a routine for you to develop a routine. So you get up on time in the morning. So you will see some people who have their own businesses, they have a little bit more flexibility in their daily schedule. But people with a job have to follow a certain schedule. So that can be a great remedy for somebody who's having a lot of 6th house issues, to tell them to get into some routine type job. Whether you get into exercising, but do it on a regular basis. Pick certain days and do them on those days. Okay, so those routine type things help a lot. Somebody who's going to be writing competitive exams, and whether or not they will be successful, or somebody is running through litigation, whether or not they will be successful or not, we look at if it's the Antardasha or Pratyantradasha of the 6th house, the person will be successful. Unless that is very badly afflicted. You're
Ask
on mute.
about,
Go ahead.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. How will we figure out the Antardasha or the
Pratyantadasha.
Pratyantardasha? Is that something we will cover later, or is that
Yeah,
a question
the,
I
when
can
you
ask
get
for
into the
now?
software, once we enter the chart, once we enter the data into the software, the software will give us what dashas somebody is running and all those things. Dashas, all the so dashas are into mahadashas, then antardasha, MD, AD, then pratyantradasha, PD, then sukshma dasha. Okay, they go into a variety of things, but we never go beyond 3 levels. Okay, when we are looking at a chart, we don't have to go beyond 3 levels. Okay, so the Pratyantra Dasha itself is a small enough, depending on which planet it is, it could be just a 3 month, 6 month period. The Mahadashas are long. Okay, so 6th house, it has a lot of negativity, but it also has some positivity. Okay, and we need to look at, whenever we are looking at anybody's chart, if the 6th house is afflicted, okay, we know that this person is, has a karmic debt and he has to face that. Can we cut that? Absolutely not. But we can make it easier for him by activating certain activities of the 6th house, because if he's already utilizing the activities of the 6th house, then the other pain that he's getting, they will be reduced, because that person has now activated the 6th house proactively. Instead of just reaction of the 6th house activating itself, this person is consciously managing his or her own life and doing activities to reduce the intensity of the 6th house karmic debt. Okay, now before I cover the other houses, I will cover the other houses, but there's a concept I want to teach you. And this is a concept I was saying, that we also have to understand this relation that I'm talking about: first, second, third, fourth, fifth house. in relation to each other houses. For example, first house is the 12th from the second house. Do you agree? First house is the, what did I say? Is the second from the 12th house. This is 12th house, 1, 2. The first house is second from the 12th house. First house is 12th from the second house. What does that mean? 12th house, I haven't told you, but it means, say, losses. Okay? I haven't talked about 12th house, the good and the bad, but one of the bad parts is losses. Okay? So 12th, first is the 12th from second. Second is wealth. So if somebody's first house is very strong and the second house is very weak, the person may have a very strong personality, but we all know of some very, very strong personalities who haven't been that successful financially, right? Are you aware of people who are brilliant in some way or other, in a lot of ways? You look up to them, but financially they have not done very well because the first house is so strong that they have worked on themselves so much, and a lot of times they have trouble asking for money. Okay, so first house is the 11th from third house. 11th, we talk about fulfillment of desires or gains. What that will mean is, if you show effort, if you show valor, if you put hard work into it, you are going to get reward for it. Are you following me? So it's like that. We have to understand this concept also from each house. Okay. So what does that mean from the second house? What that means from the third house? Second house from the third house. This person will either have ill health that he can't put in the effort, or he's suffering somehow that he's not able to put the effort in. Okay, so we have to understand this concept also. Just 1 second. Yeah, sorry. So we have to understand that concept from that perspective also. And before I wrapped up today's class, I wanted to share this with you because in every class we will talk about it. Okay, so you guys can try as a homework this chart I will share with you to do this for second, third, fourth, fifth houses. What you think that would mean? See, we covered the third house, right? Third house means journey, travel, one of the indications. And 11th house is elder sibling. I talked briefly about that. Third house is younger sibling. 11th house is elder sibling. So third from the 11th house is the first house, and you're in seeing something, and something with your sibling is happening. You can say, okay, your brother or your sister, older one, can be traveling at this time. When you're reading a chart, there are only 12 houses, there are only 12 rashis, but there are thousands of different significances. I am doing this course on my computer. I don't have a headphone or earphone, but Bhavya right now is wearing a headphone. That should mean something. That is a significance. Wearing glasses is a significance. Having long hair, short hair is a significance. Tall, short, fat, slim, fit, they're all significances. There are so many different significances. There's so many different kinds of achievements in life, so many different kind of sports in life. Where does a person live? Where is a person born? What kind of surroundings that person might have? Everything is a significance. It's impossible to document all the significances. But if we understand the key significances, and we understand if we have to study about a sibling, and what are we studying about that sibling, which house should I be examining for that sibling? Seventh house is marriage. Sixth house is that sibling is writing a competitive exam. Okay, so sixth from the third, which is the eighth house. Okay, right away, you know that you can do that counting in your head. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sixth house from the third house. If eighth house is activated, yeah, you're going through some pain. But you know what? I just want to give a bad news. I also want to say something good. Is your sibling writing a competitive exam? Or is he playing a competitive sport? Something is happening, some final is happening. They will succeed. We have to understand how to look at positive aspects. The purpose of Jyotish is to help people. It is not to scare people and manage them or manipulate them into giving you money. It's about helping people. And that was the whole purpose of Jyotish. And we can only understand this if we understand these basics very well. And that's why I really wanted everybody for this class, because it has some very important concepts. If I were to repeat this class, I don't know if I could repeat the same lecture over again or not. But I think I was able to convey a lot of important points of what the importance of basics is. Everything that we have studied has to be memorized by heart. And like I said, I've repeated enough times that you're starting to pick it up automatically, right? Or you know where to go to. It doesn't take you too long to recognize or remember that, you know. It will settle in your minds automatically. But we have to study them too. So we've covered until 6th house today. We'll start from the 7th house next time, and try, if you can, for 2, 3, 4, and 5 houses, all the 12 placements, how they will be. Okay, and keep it. I won't test you in the thing, but you can check for yourself when I come to that stage and I'm presenting those slides. Okay, it will only help you. I think if you try something and if you get it wrong, you understand it more. And I think the best part, Bhavya, about your revision was you said, you know, I can't articulate it. And I love that, because that's why I like teaching, because when you're teaching, you have to articulate it. So you start to understand it more. So when you're trying to explain things to me, I'm sure you are understanding the minuscule differences much better. Did you guys have fun today?
Yes.
Awesome. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjiv.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Yeah.
Good night.
Bye.